my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Sunday video where I look at the hottest Golden Age comics for the week. And it's an interesting week because my comic shop just had their auction, their Prime auction, where they basically sell off some pretty major books. I was actually really impressed by the books. Probably one of the better My Comic Shop auctions I've ever seen in terms of the quality of the books, like the quality of the titles. So first on the list is one that is a beautiful cover. It's like number 10. It's Flash Comics number 15. This is from DC Comics number 1941. It's a Sheldon Moldoff cover, and it's just a really great Hawkman cover. Now, what's really interesting about this title, it's Flash Comics, right? So you think, oh, it's going to be a Flash title, but a lot of the better covers are actually Hawkman covers or Hawkgirl covers. So it's just one of those things. It's the title was kind of more of a mixture of Hawkman titles and Flash titles. It's an interesting thing that way. Now, this one was a 7.5 that sold, and it sold for $1,226. Now that is slightly down, slightly down. The previous record for this book was set back in January of 2019 for $1,240. So it's down like 14 bucks. not a huge drop, but a little bit of a drop. But you know, it was a really great pickup for somebody. There are 39 of these on the census, and 35 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 9 on the list is USA Comics number 2. This is from Timely, 1941. It is the origin of Captain Terror, and it's one of those ones where it's a Hitler cover. Now, there are collectors for Hitler covers, and this is one of those ones that they go after because it's a really bizarre Hitler cover. He's in this weird drill machine and he's just driving towards the superhero. Just a really weird cover. So yeah, so this was a 2.5 CGC. Actually, the previous one was the CGC book as well. And it sold for $1,678. Now that is way down. Now, the previous record for this book was set back in March of 2020 for $2,195. So whoever got this got a bit of a steal because they got it $500 under that record. And even the last sale, which was in June of 2022, was for $2,103. So it had been kind of on a dip, but this was just really under that kind of price that had been established of around $2,100. So there are 39 of these on the census, and 32 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 8 on the list is a classic pre-code horror cover. It's rated as actually one of the best horror covers of all time. It is Chamber of Chills number 23. This is from Harvey, 1954. It's a Lee Elias cover. And this one features the zombie kiss. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like this zombie looks like he's kissing the girl. It's such a weird cover. This was a 0.5 raw copy that sold. It was 0.5 not because it was incomplete, but because it has a complete spine split. And sometimes I will get it of 0.5 grade. And maybe that's why people are willing to pay a little bit more for this, and I'll get into that in a second. So this sold for $2,034. Now that is actually way up because there was a CGC 0.5 that sold for $900 in May of 2020. And even a 1.8, so much higher grade, sold in April of 2023 for $1,800. So why did somebody pay so much? That's what happens at auction. Sometimes you get these people really excited about a book. I think it might actually grade out at the 1.0 grade. Sometimes I've seen that where even with a complete spine split, CGC will grade it as a 1.0. And My Comic Shop generally is a little harsher on the grading, so their 0.5 could be, in this case, a 1.0, especially when it's a complete book. So it might not be that much of an overpay as a result. Usually in these lower grades, you get a lot of price compression. Okay, so there are 118 of these on the census, and 112 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 7 on the list is Teenage Romances number 9. This is a St. John book from 1950, and it features classic Matt Baker cover. This one is kind of a notorious one because it's an innuendo cover. And it's basically this girl, she's kind of flirting with this guy, his name's Richard. And the friends in the background are like, oh, you're never gonna, this evil girl is gonna steal your boyfriend. And in the word bubble it says, she will do anything to hold Dick. That's it's such a funny one. So yeah, it's considered to be an unintentional innuendo cover. This was a 3.5 that sold, raw copy again, for $2,561. Now there are no sales in this grade. However, there was a 5.5 that sold recently, back in, like, when I say recently, like 4 years ago, for $4,350. So if you kind of do the price per point, that would have been around $2,768. Then if you factor in grading costs, well, a 3.5 raw, about $2,500 seems like a fair price. So yeah, it's kind of right in there. A very hard book to find. There's only 12 of these on the census, and 12 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Great book. I'd love to have that one in my collection. Number 6 on the list is Black Cat Mystery number 50. Now, this is probably considered to be maybe in the top 3, if not the number 1 pre-code horror cover. This is from Herbie, 1954. It is a Lee Elias cover again, and it's white heat. It's basically this guy, his face is disintegrating, his hands are disintegrating because he was playing with uranium, radium. Just crazy cover, probably one of the most graphic covers. And you would expect that because this is like that 1954 date where, they were really pushing the envelope. This is right before the Comic Code Authority came into play, and they were really going pretty hard at it. So the most extreme covers are in that 1954 date. This was a 0.5 again, another 0.5 raw copy, and it's missing the centerfold. That's why it got the 0.5 grade. So it's actually an incomplete copy, and it sold for $3,194. Now again, there's no sales for a 0.5 graded copy, but we can look at the 1.0, which sold for $3,000 in July of 2019. So this sold for more than the 1.0 sold for. And even the last 1.0 sale, which was a little bit more recent, in January of 2021, was actually for $2,600. So this book actually dropped a bit from that original record from 2019. So this is really a really impressive sale for a 0.5 selling for more than a 1.0 had sold for in 2021, and even in 2019 when it had its record. So big sale. That was a massive one. This is one of those books that people go for if they can get it. And again, at the lower grades, people are sometimes kind of overpay just to get a copy. They get, because when it gets into the high grades, it gets really, really expensive. So, this is kind of the price of entry for this book. There are 119 of these on the census, and 109 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 5 on the list is Teenage Diary Secrets, number 9. This is from St. John, 1950. Another Matt Baker cover, great cover, beach cover, just good girl cover, really interesting book. This is a digest. It's not a normal standard size comic. It's a digest size, and it is just a really cool book. Now, this was a 1.5 raw copy that sold, and it sold for $3,650. Now, that to me is not just, it is a record, it's a new record for this book, but it is interesting because there's no census for this book. There's no sales to go by. I have no record of what this book has sold for in the past. And the fact that it has 0 on the census is crazy. And, people, when you don't know, it's really hard to judge how much a book should go for. I think this is one of those books that's just a ghost, and people will pay up for it because it's so hard to find. It was an interesting one. I can't say, it's a record because there's nothing to compare it to. In any grade, there's nothing on the census. Okay, so 0 of 0. I don't know what to say. Number 4 on the list is Super Snipe Comics Volume 1, number 8. This is from Street and Smith, 1943. Is the Hitler, Tojo, and Mussolini, and they're being pushed into this pit of hell, basically, and you see the devil there, and it's a classic cover. This was a CGC 6.0, and it sold for $6,911, which is a new record. Well, actually, it's not a new record. It's slightly below the previous record of $7,200 for a 6.0, which sold in March of 2020. I forgot to mention that it is a George Macraw. I'm not sure. Cover, and it so it was down about $300 from that prior record, but that prior record was actually blown away by a lower grade for selling way more. A 5.5, which I actually reported on this channel, sold in March of 2024 for $10,200. So this is way down from even what that half a point grade book sold for, the 5.5 had sold for. So it's down like $3,000 from what the 5.5 had sold for. And I think there is a reason for that in a way. I actually think the 5.5 was a better book. Sometimes it's not about buying the grade, it's about buying the book. And if you look at the 6.0, there was a large chip. I don't know how it got a 6.0 actually. There's a large chip at the bottom that's missing. Like it's like just missing a piece. And I think that's part of the reason why people weren't as willing to pay up for this book. And the 5.5 was actually a very clean 5.5. So there's 27 of these on the census, and 23 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 3 on the list is Mask Comics number 1. This is from Rural Home Publishers, and it's from 1945. Is a L.B. Cole cover, and it's considered to be one of his greats, one of his Grail covers. It features a mask with these little naked fairies floating around it. It's just a beautiful cover with beautiful, brilliant colors on it. This is a 3.0 that sold, CGC 3.0, and it sold for $12,803, which is about $1,000 down from what it sold for in 2022, where it sold for $13,800. So it's down a little bit from that prior record, but still a massive sale. I was actually thinking it was going to be, when I was recording this video, I actually thought it was going to be a much bigger sale. But then when I checked the pricing, I was like, wow, this book is so expensive. $12,000. I was just like, wow. The interesting thing is all of these books I bid on, but my bids were totally blown away. I was actually leading for about a week, but my bid's totally blown away. And this one, like my max bid, I think was like 1,000 or so. So I was like totally blown away. So yeah, this was CGC. Yeah, selling for CGC 3.0, selling for $12,000. Massive sale. There are 83 of these on the census. 68 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 2 on the list is Archie Comics number 1. This is from Archie Comics, or MLJ Comics. It's a Bob Montana cover, and it features the first appearance of Miss Andrews, but it's also the first titled Archie book. It's the first time you see Archie in the title, because Archie made his first appearance in Pep Comics 22. And this is the first time that he really gets his own title. This was a 3.0 CGC copy that sold, and it sold for $16,766. Now, this is actually way down. This book had a massive sale on Heritage back in March of 2022 for $31,625. Now, that was a very outlier sale. It was just this massive sale that happened on Heritage. It had since corrected. Like, that was in March of 22, and it really price corrected. The last sale was actually only a couple months after that, in May of 2022, for $20,400. So I think what happened was somebody really overpaid, and it kind of price corrected back to $20,000, and now it's actually price corrected even more to $16,700. So, yeah, I feel bad for somebody who paid $31,000 for it. I mean, they basically got cut in half. That's what happens sometimes. Okay, there are 73 of these on the census, and 57 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 1 on the list, and when I saw this, I was like, oh man, maybe this is my opportunity. Maybe this is the one chance that I have to buy this book. And no, it wasn't. It was not. This is a Batman number 1. And it was DC Comics 1940, Bob Kane cover. First appearance of the Joker. First appearance of the Cat, who later becomes Catwoman. I always do that. But it is also the origin of Batman retold. So just a classic book. I mean, this is like one of the big books for Batman. Obviously, his first titled comic. He like the other book, other characters appeared in another title first. He appeared in Detective 27. That was where he made his first appearance. But this is where he gets his first title. Huge book. This was a 0.5 CGC graded comic that sold for $46,169. Massive sale. I was like, wow, that's really crazy. I didn't realize how expensive a 0.5 blue label goes for. There was actually a previous record to this book that was even higher. I was shocked when I saw the census on it. There was one that sold in June of 2021 for $57,600. Now, this book has had a lot of price correction since then. That was just a massive sale, because in September of 2021, it actually sold for $27,600. Now, the reason that one had that price correction where it sold for much less than the one that sold in June, like only 3 months difference, was it was a remainder copy, and the Batman label, a remainder copy where the Batman label was just ripped off. So that usually impacts the presentation of the book. People are a little bit less forgiving about damage to the cover than they are about missing a page. It's actually worse to have that cover damage, because in the slab you can't see that it's missing a page. But if it's got that big chunk out of the top, that really does impact the appeal of the comic. So I think that's why it had that lower sale in the more recent sale. But $46,000, massive sale. Much more in line to what you would expect this book to go for. I think the fair market value is around $46,000 for this book. I think that $57,000 sale was a bit of an overpay way back when. This is much more in line with what I would expect this book to go for, but just huge. This one really was slow about jumping. I was like, oh, I'm gonna win it. No, no way, no way to win it. My bid was like 1,000. I just put a lowball bid, hoping that nobody would notice it for some reason. But yeah, it sold for big money. Really nice one though. Okay, so there are 311 on the census for Batman 1, and 148 of them are Universal Blue Labels, so less than half. So I hope you enjoyed this list. What did you think? Have you ever checked out MyComicShop's auctions? There's a lot of great stuff, and as you can see, some really great pricing that you can get. So again, hope you enjoyed this video. Bye for now.